Hi, wherever you're watching, if you're just like me that you're writing the ICAN exams skills level and you're finding it hard to go through the bulky text and the big English inside the ICAN pack, here is me simplifying what I've read on withholding tax and sharing with you. Like the thumbnail says, if this video is for 1 hour, you can learn everything that has to do with this topic in less than 30 minutes. Feel free to watch in times 2 or whatever speed works for you, and if there's any part you understand already, feel free to fast forward so that you can catch up on all that concepts. So let's go. So the topic before us today is withholding tax, and for some it's the first time they're hearing it. For some, they've heard it before. And for every time you do a transaction with a bank, probably you're doing interest, you're collecting interest on a particular investment, you see them always deducting this withholding tax. So when we're talking about withholding tax, what do we mean? What do we call withholding tax? So let me get to it. First off, withholding tax is a tax, is not a tax like another form of tax. Take for example, we have the way we have tax on your salary, the way you have value added tax, and so on and so forth. Withholding tax is not like any of those tax. Withholding tax is just an advance payment of tax. I take it again. It's an advance payment of tax. That is, before you are being charged for tax, you've paid it in advance. Take for example, you paid your rent bill in advance. So also is withholding tax. You paid it in advance before the time that you're supposed to pay that tax. So you must know this with withholding tax. But if you're talking about paying tax in advance, you begin to wonder, can I pay the tax in advance? So I'm going to give you a good scenario. And the scenario that I'm going to be giving you is Mr. Bola. Let's say we have a Mr. Bola that I'm giving a moment. Let's say we have a Mr. Bola, and Mr. Bola sells Mr. Bola supplies cocoa, right? Mr. Bola supplies cocoa to company B. I take it again. Mr. Bola supplies cocoa to company B. Now, very easy. An individual is supplying a particular product to a company B. Now, the particular product that he sells to company B, the worth of the cocoa that he sends to them is 1 million. For ease of computation, is 1 million. 1 million naira. That is the particular tax that he sent. But you will notice that Mr. Bola might not necessarily pay tax. He might have a tax identification number, but he might not necessarily pay tax. Now, what withholding tax does is that when company B wants to send it to Mr. Bola, I take it again. When company B wants to send to Mr. Bola, instead of them paying an amount of 1 million naira, what they would do is that they will charge the withholding tax. I take it again. They will charge a withholding tax depending on the rate of the tax. Let's say the rate is 5%. I'm just saying. Let's say the rate is 5%. 5% of 1 million is going to be 50,000. I believe. Is that 50,000? Yes. 5% of 1 million is going to be 50,000. So what will happen is that by the time they will pay the money to Mr. Bola, what will be paid will be 1 million minus 50,000 naira. Now, what is happening now is that you start to ask, is company B actually a tax authority? No, company B is not a tax authority, but company B is acting as an agency to collect the withholding tax, and then they send it back to the tax agency that is supposed to receive that. So that is exactly why we talk about an advance payment of tax. So they've paid this tax on behalf of Mr. Bola. Mr. Bola can later, when he wants to file his tax, say, okay, I've actually been deducted this withholding tax before, and list all the withholding tax that have been charged, and it will be given to him as a tax credit. That is, he's not going to be paying those value of taxes with deducted from his tax that he's supposed to pay. So let us leave it at that. Let us move further. Now, let us talk about the peculiarities of withholding tax. What are the most important things about peculiarities? What makes it very, very unique? Number one is that you don't have no option. A taxpayer has no option as to whether to pay it or not, as the person making payment is required to deduct it. Now, the person that is deducting the tax payment is mandatory for the person to deduct, because if they do not deduct, then they might face sanctions. I take it again. If they do not deduct, they might face sanctions. I'm going to take the opportunity to make this disclaimer. The content used that is being displayed on the screen right now is from the ICAN pack, and this is in no means to copyright the product, but just in a way to make other students be able to understand what is being taught. So this is not, I take it again, this is not a copyright. It's just to make other people understand exactly what the course is all about. Right, let's move on. Number 2 is that it is an advance payment of income tax and therefore can be utilized as tax credit. That's what I mentioned the other time. You can use this as a tax credit. That is, you can use this to set off future years. I take it again, future years, not the previous years. I take it again. You can't use tax credit against previous tax liability. You can only use this withholding tax against future income tax that you have to pay. And in some cases, it can represent final tax. In certain cases, that it could be the last tax some people pay, especially in investment and all of that. We'll get that in the future. That we'll get there as we proceed in the course. Now, what are the objectives of withholding tax? Why withholding tax? Number 1 is to reduce tax evasion. Tax evasion is the sense in which people legally or illegally, I'm not sure of that definition, but it is the way people try to evade tax. They do not want to pay tax. How do they run away from paying tax? So this allows them to, it allows the government to reduce how people can run away from paying tax, because instead of them waiting for the tax agency to come and collect the money, no, they do not wait, but instead the person that you are even selling to already charges you the tax. So as you are doing your business, the tax is connected. Number 2, it increases the tax net of the government. What do we mean tax net? Tax net as in the number of people the government can reach. It increases the number of taxable people. The people that government cannot reach, other businesses can reach them and they can begin to charge those tax. Number 3, veritable source of revenue to the government, and the collection mechanism is a collection mechanism. This also speaks directly to the tax net of the government, increasing the tax net of the government. Now, I believe this is good. Let's move further. Now, who collects the withholding tax? I take it again, who collects the withholding tax? I've gone through different past questions and I saw this particular question. I can't remember the year. At the end of this particular topic, I'm going to be sharing with you the past questions in the Pathfinder, the question number, the year, and the month, so that you can just go there and try out the withholding tax questions that you can see there. Hopefully you wait to the end of the class to get that. Now, administration of withholding tax. There are 2 agencies that administer tax. The first one is the Federal Internal Revenue Service. I take it again, the Federal Internal Revenue Service and the State Internal Revenue Service. State Internal Revenue Service like Lagos Internal Revenue Service, Kwara State Internal Revenue Service. But how do you know which one collects the tax? That is the big question. How do you know which one collects the tax? Now, if the person that is suffering the tax deduction, I take it again, if the person suffering the tax deduction, in this case, Mr. B, is an individual, I take it again, if the person suffering the tax deduction, in this case, Mr. B, is an individual, that is, the person is not a company, the person is an individual, you pay that tax to the State Internal Revenue Service. I take it again, you pay that tax to the State Internal Revenue Service. But if the person is a company, that is the person suffering this tax that you're charging, that is deducting this withholding tax on, is a company, then you pay it into the Federal Inland Revenue Service. That is the FIRS collects this particular tax. So when you hear questions like who is the ultimate beneficiary or ultimate of, please just know that it is either FIRS or SIRS. They are the ultimate beneficiary of this. You can check the study pack, the stuff on there, and believe by the time you're reading it, it will be more easier for you to understand. All right. These are the rates that we can be used to charge tax. So you can charge, if it is a royalty, it's 5%, 10%, rent 10%, 10%. Please note that all these rates are based on 2020. We do not know whether ICAN is going to update the tax law because there's a Finance Act yet, but it is not yet effective. We do not know whether it is going to be updated on the ICAN site. Please take note. Please do take note. This is according to 2020, effective date of 2021. So we have construction income where it is 2.5% and 5% for individual and company. I'm going to explain why do we have 2 tax rates there. That's J, that's line J. Line J. Why do we have 2 tax rates there? It is written here. So if it is for the construction of road, I'm going to come here. If it is a construction contract and the contract is for construction of road, bridges, building and power plants, you use 2.5%. I take it again. If the withholding tax is on construction of road, bridges and building plants, I believe you can see it. If the construction is on construction of road, bridges and building plants, then you use 2.5%. 2.5%. But if it is a subcontract, that is, it is a subcontract for supply of materials like, oh, we're supplying labor, we're supplying equipment, we're supplying materials, and so on and so forth, then you charge 5%. You charge 5%. Good. Now, let us look at the things that we actually charge contracts on. We charge withholding tax on. You see, we charge on contracts of supply, construction income, agency arrangements, commissions, professional fee, consultancy fee, director's fee, dividend, interest, rent, royalties, and so on and so forth. All of these, you charge withholding tax on them. But let us focus on contract of supply. So what are contracts of supply? So contracts of supply are, take for example, you're doing a supply or you're doing a delivery, right? Or you even make competitive bidding tender. That is those bidding that we make for contracts, right? Or you get an LPO to carry out a particular project, whether oral or written. When you get any of these contracts, we call them contracts of supply. But there's an exemption. The exemption is that it does not cut across counter sales. I take it again. Over the counter sales does not cover across the one across over the counter sales of cash, or two, supplies in the ordinary course of transaction, or supplies in the ordinary course of sales. Now I'm going to explain. So over the counter cash sales means, take for example, you go to the market now and you decide to buy, like, those people will not even allow you to deduct withholding tax. They will not even allow you. That's over the counter cash sales, right? Or supplies in the ordinary course of sales. Take for example, if it is registered in the memorandum of association of the business that this is our regular business, this is what our business is all about, you cannot it does not qualify under the contract of supplies. I believe that is clear. Now, I saw that this question was repeated over and over in the past questions that I was able to see, especially in the skills level. Content of withholding schedule, the withholding payment schedule. What is the content? For some they ask 5, for some they ask 6. So number one is that you can pay online. Actually, I checked it. I saw a video that was sharing how to pay online. But at least note that number one, the name of the taxpayer that is suffering the deduction must be listed. Is going to be like an Excel schedule. So the name of the taxpayers, you have number one, this taxpayer, like in a table. Number two, the addresses of these people, the nature of services that is being covered in that period, and very important, their TIN number, their tax identification number must be there. The amount payable, the tax rate, the amounts to be withheld, and so on and so forth. I believe this is self-explanatory. Please read through this. Very, very, very important. I take it again. Very, very, very important. Now, what is the time frame with withholding tax returns? Good. Now, we've established that the State Internal Revenue Service collects some of this tax, and we also established that the Federal Internal Revenue Service also collects some of this tax. Now, we said state collects for individual, while federal collects for companies. Now, if it is for a company, it is 21 days. I take it again. If you are paying to the federal, it is for 21 days. 21 days for company. That is, you are going to the federal, 21 days respectively. So you must file this 21 days after the transaction. You have a time frame of 21 days. You have a time frame of 21 days. And if it is for an individual, you actually have to pay in 30 days. That is, if you are filing to the state, you have to pay it within 30 days. You have to pay it within 30 days. This is very, 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 very important. Right. I believe we understand this. All right. So what is the penalty if you decide not to choose this date? I saw a question on this. What is the penalty? What is the penalty for not following this? Number one, failure to pay for a company, that is to the Federal Internal Revenue Service. It will attract a penalty of 10% of the withholding tax deductible. That's English. Let me explain it. The tax that you are supposed to pay, they will charge 10% on it, and it will be the fine, the penalty you will pay, plus the original amount you are supposed to pay. I take it again, it will be 10% of the withholding tax deductible. So if you're supposed to pay 1 million in your tax withholding tax, we'll charge 10% of that, and that will be the fine. What about if it was to be the state internal revenue service? Well, the fine is 5,000 naira, that's one, plus the prevailing commercial rate. I take it again, 5,000 naira plus the prevailing commercial rate. So that is the fine. So if the commercial rate is 10%, so it is charged. Please note that for company, it is 10% per annum. I take it again. It is 10% per annum. 10% per annum. Let's go back to the state. So for the state, 5,000 naira plus the prevailing commercial rate. And of course, you still have to pay back the withholding tax that you've not paid to the tax agency. So let us go to the bottlenecks. Now, this one was almost confusing for me, and it's important that you take note. Please note that the bottlenecks is different from the demerit. So I was attempting a question, and the question was asking me for the demerits, and I was writing the bottlenecks. I think this might be very, very it's possible to mistake them for the other, but please note that the bottleneck is actually different from the demerits. Right, so let's go to the bottlenecks. So I saw this question also, it was there, the bottlenecks in collecting tax. Number one is inconsistency in the interpretation of applicable withholding tax rates. There might be there might be inconsistency, like, oh, which rate are we supposed to use? Oh, this one is a contract of supply. No, it is this. No, so there is that issue of what type of contract are we actually going into and what the rate is applicable. Number two is that there's bureaucracy in claiming tax credit. Before you can claim your tax credit, of course, this is Nigeria, and you understand how things are. And then there's penalty for failure to deduct. Now, it's almost counterintuitive, right? In the sense that I'm helping the government to collect their tax. Then they'll still now fine me if I do not collect it. Come on, make it make sense. Is it not their job to actually... So yeah, so penalty for failure to deduct. And the last one is, okay, there's still one. Applying rates to apply to transaction, I think, believe it's still almost the same as A. Appropriate, what tax rate should I apply? And then the last one is bureaucracy in the process of withholding tax, process of getting back your tax refund. Take, for example, you want to get your money back. Oh, they've charged me this amount. There's so much bureaucracy. We know the meaning of bureaucracy, right? Yeah, we know the meaning. Bureaucracy means taking long. When you go through the civil service or the public service, and you have to go, your file has to go through multiple tables, and it takes time, upon time and upon time. So that is bureaucracy. Now, we're moving closer to the end of this. Merit and demerit. Merit and demerit of withholding scheme. Number one is that the number one advantage is that it's a source of revenue for the government. Number two is that it helps the government to increase the tax net. So they're able to reach more people. I think we've said this already. It helps in determining a person's turnover. In terms, like, you can be able to get the person's turnover based on the number of withholding tax that they've gotten. Oh, you've gotten withholding tax here. That starts to give you an estimate of, through their withholding tax, starts to give you an estimate of what their turnover will look like. That is, their total sales will look like. Then makes tax payments less cumbersome. So you don't need to go back to the tax office to go and be calculating. It reduces incidents of tax evasion. You can't. The government is happy because they are able to reduce the number of people that is evading tax. And then it's almost little to no cost of collection, since it's almost like self-accounting, right? It's self-accounting. You don't need to. The tax payer does not need to start chasing. They don't need to. You go through a cost of bringing people to pay. Like the companies that charge this withholding tax, they've done the work for them. Then it saves time for the revenue officers to attend to other duties. These are very, very simple and direct to the point. Now, for the demerit. Number one, if the rate is high, it can actually affect operational performance of most businesses. It can affect the operational performance of most businesses. That's very easy. The one I would like to speak to is the second one, where number one is that the amount it can cause cash flow issues. Now, Mr. B in this case does not know that company B will actually charge a withholding tax. So he just wrote a particular amount that is good for him. He just wrote that amount on the invoice. And then he realizes that, wow, so I'm still not going to get the full amount of this because of what? because of the withholding tax rate. So there's also that. And then the third one is it discourage hard work by revenue officer. Oh yeah. So there's that. Okay, penalty for late remittance or non-deduction of withholding tax from payments. I think I've talked about this already. 5,000 plus prevailing commercial rate plus the amount that you are supposed to pay originally for state internal revenue service, and 10% per annum for the federal internal revenue service, plus of course the amount that you're supposed to pay. Now, what about currency of deduction? This is good. I love this. We're doing this in less than 20 minutes. I love this so much. Now, currency of deduction is if it is in another currency, if the transaction that is taking place is in another currency, right? Take for example, it is dollar denominated, the tax payable should also be in that same currency. You don't convert to naira, it should be in that same currency. Now, there's a rule CBN plays. I saw a particular question on this, on the past question. There's a rule CBN plays. The role CBN plays is that number one, I take it again. The role CBN plays is that number one, they will collect the payment. You pay through, the person paying the withholding tax will pay through the CBN, and then the CBN will disburse into the respective state accounts. I take it again. You will pay through the CBN, then the CBN will do the conversion based on the prevailing market rate, prevailing currency rate rather, and then they will play into the respective government account. I take it again. You would pay your payment in the currency of the transaction, and the government will take it through that rate. Now, before I go to the past question, please to motivate me, I really want to keep doing these videos, especially for tax. I also do these videos for taxation. I also do for all across all topics in tax. I also want to do this for across all topics in PM, performance management, and also across all topics in FM. And FM is the new course as out of 2025 November is the new course, but I'm hoping to be able to do the one thing that you can do to me that will make me so motivated to continue putting out these videos, just to click a like button and subscribe. Just click the like button and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I wish you success as you go on in your exam. Now, talking about the past questions that I noticed is number one. I'm just going to list them here. Is question for, let me start from 2024. Question 7, 2024 November. I take it again. Question 7, 2024 November. Then 2023 November, question 6B. That's the second part of question 6. 2023 November, question 6B. 2022 November, question 7. 2022 November, question 7. And then 2022 May, question 5. 2022 May, question 5. So you might want to go through the question. You'll see questions on contract or supply. You see questions on exemptions. You see questions on challenges that bedevils. You see questions on there's a particular case in the study pack. Please, it's very important. It's very important to check out that case. Tax. What is it about? The Tax Appeal Tribunal versus Tetra Pak West Africa. There's a case on that. Please check it out. And yeah, I think that's about sort it out. Then you have elements in the withholding tax, so on and so forth. Like, I'll give you the questions. Please check them out. I really wish you success. Like I said, like and subscribe. Please just subscribe. I'm going to keep on posting videos upon videos. See you on the next one. Success. Bye.